Hi everybody, we would like to start now. I'm very pleased to see you all here in this event of the MIT Enterprise Forum of Israel, which works in cooperation with the Recanati Graduate School of Business Administration. And this event is in fact part of the DLD, the Digital Life Design event, which is taking place in Tel Aviv today and tomorrow at the Tachana. And we were very fortunate to have two of the international speakers at the DLD come here and present. Failure is something which makes us think. It's very emotional, and we learn a lot from failure. And this is the reason why we asked the speakers of today's talk to reflect on their failures and to give us some of the lessons that they learned from failure or fixing failure. The three speakers are all associated one way or another with the world of media. However, they do very different things and in different worlds at different stages of their companies. Shoor is the founder and CEO of the youngest company right now. Maurice Thomas is the founder and CEO of a slightly older company. And Joan Vogelesang is the CEO of a company that's pretty mature and growing very nicely. And each of them will give her own insight as to what worked for them and what didn't, and how they managed to cope with difficulties and with crisis. I'd like to start with Shoor, co-founder and vice president product of Takipi. Takipi is a cloud or big data startup aiming to change how developers work in the cloud. Prior to Takipi, Iris was co-founder at Visual Tao, a Sequoia-backed startup acquired by Autodesk in 2009. Following the acquisition, Iris served as the product line manager for Autodesk's flagship web and mobile product line, bringing it from 0 to 10 million users in less than 2 years. I'd like to also mention that Iris was a student of architecture, and she quit her studies, like Steve Jobs and other people we know, in order to start a company.
Yeah, but they quit computer science, not architecture.
All right, they quit computer science. Thank you, Iris. We'll take it from here.
Hi. Hi. Okay, can you hear me? Okay. It's kind of scary speaking about failure. So when Ayla invited me to speak about failures, the first thing that I could think of is how come failure, which is such an integral part of a startup, is still an issue? I know that sometimes people think from the outside that failing is something that you experience on the very start of a startup company, just about trying to raise money for the first time or trying to build a product. But I have to say that probably like 70 or 80% of the time I still fail at everything. Even today, like I tried to reach a certain company and send them like 4 different emails, got no reply from all of them. And so I fail all the time. It's about reaching bloggers, trying to recruit people to the company, trying to close deals, trying to raise money. And so I think that the subject that I'm going to speak about today is more about how to deal with failure and how to keep on doing while failing, because that's what we do as entrepreneurs. I think that most of the successful entrepreneurs I know are not the smartest or the most intelligent or have the best network, but they keep on doing all the time. They keep innovating, they keep trying harder. And that's probably the main cause, the main effect of failure on entrepreneurs, that sometimes it blocks you from continue doing and trying to innovate and do new stuff. And I know that for me, I'm going to tell you a bit about myself on the next slide, but I've been an entrepreneur for 7 years now and made some major personal progress as a product manager and as a manager, and running the marketing strategy and so on. But the most important progress that I've experienced is about enjoying startup life and about dealing with failure and about keep on doing. So today I'm going to share all the different things that I do in order to enjoy the success, enjoy the failures, and building a better company with all the failures. Okay, so just to put my failures in context, as Ayla mentioned, I studied architecture. At the fourth year out of 5, I decided I'm not going to be an architect, and I had nothing else to do but to start my own company. And together with 2 co-founders, I started Visual Tel. I have to say that it sounds like a very brave story. I quit school and started my own company, but it was just an idea. I wasn't sure how to deal with it. I started working with 2 friends, and from 1 month to the other, it became a company. We had a very, very long learning curve. It took us a year and a half to raise the seed money. Later on, we raised money from Sequoia, and 3.5 years after co-founding the company, it was acquired by Autodesk. I spent 2 years with Autodesk running the product. When I left Autodesk, we had over 10 million B2B users, all engineers and architects. I think that's my biggest achievement so far, getting 30% of the market. And I left Autodesk about 2 years ago, and together with the same team of co-founders, we started a very different kind of company, and I'm going to share more about it. So this is my first company. I studied architecture. I decided that it's time to take CAD and AutoCAD drawings to the cloud, and we built AutoCAD for the mobile and the web. And this is what I do today with Takipi. It's a very hardcore, techie company. We help developers to understand why their servers crashed and what caused exceptions. And the first topic that I'm going to speak about today is probably the essence of failure. And it's about the ups and downs of startup life. I think that the main problem of failing at a startup is not about the point of failing. It's about how much you drop. It's about getting a very positive response from an investor and trying to imagine how you're going to spend the money, who you're going to recruit, how the company is going to look like with this brand name investor, and then getting a no 1 day later. Or having a very successful launch, having 10,000 of new users coming to your website, and then one week later see that no one is using the product. So I guess that for me, that's like the main ups and downs, and that was the hardest thing for me to deal with in being a co-founder of a startup. Okay, so this is a picture from the early days of Takipi, almost 2 years ago. We used to run a site of Autodesk in Israel, 40 people, very, very successful product. We left a team of 5. We rented an apartment. We bought some IKEA furniture, built it, and started working on our second startup. And we were sure it's going to be so much easier because first we know what we're doing. We know how to market. We know how to build a product. We know how to raise money. And the second reason is that we can deal with everything because we've been through it. And it turned out, I think, about a week after we co-founded Takipi, we realized that that's not the way it is. We're not sure how to build this kind of product or how to work with the new kind of team. And we were sure that all the investors are going to be super interested in us because we're second-time entrepreneurs. It didn't happen. And then the most important, and I had like my major crisis over there. I was sure it's going to be so much fun, coming back to the old startup days, starting things from zero, and it was a mess. And then I realized that being an entrepreneur is a job like any other job, and I need to learn how to enjoy it and how to deal with all the different crises that are involved in startup life. And you're probably very familiar with this graph. I'm sure that you can mark your own ups and downs on it. That's how my life used to look like. It was always like, I was always worried that I either need to climb up because we're somewhere around here and the marketing is not working, I need to fix things, or I'm over here and I need to enjoy it right now because I know that something bad is going to happen. And one very common advice that I used to get is, okay, so just don't take the ups and downs so personally. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to get a no from your dream investor and to say, okay, that's fine, I'm not going to take it personally, or to have a very successful launch and get thousands of your dream users and not be at the top of the world. But I came to realize that there's also this part, and it's all about sending emails and having the casual meetings and playing the product and working with the team. And maybe if this part is 90% of the startup, I should give it 90% of the focus. So it's not about eliminating the ups and downs, it's about focusing more on the other parts of the startup. And this is a quote I really like by Aristo. It says, "We are what we repeatedly do." It's not about the peak points of our life, but mostly about what we do every day. And Flow is probably one of the most important books that I've read. I know that many entrepreneurs follow Flow. I know that Yossi Vardi discuss it quite a lot. And I think it's mostly because of all the ups and downs. Flow is a very interesting movement in psychology which measure happiness in real time. So instead of asking people how happy you are, what they do is try to research in real time if people are enjoying what they do, if people are enjoying their day, and so on. So for the last 20 years, they're doing very different kind of researches, but they always give beepers to people, and 10 or 20 times a day they beep people and ask them to write, what am I doing right now? Am I enjoying it? Am I happy? Am I productive? And that's a very interesting way to look at startups. And for me, after reading this book, the first thing that I've done is just to have this experiment on myself. And it was amazing, because I used to think that I'm wasting my time on Facebook and maybe some long meetings and so on. And I just used my iPhone and scheduled 10 different alarms at random times and wrote to myself, what am I doing now? Am I enjoying it? And I started seeing all the things that I do in a very different way, about the design work and writing documents and speaking with users and speaking with my employees, and why do I enjoy it or not enjoy it. And this is probably something that it's a quote from Flow, and it summarizes most of it. So it says like, it is when we act freely for the sake of action itself rather than for ulterior motives, then we learn to become more than what we were. And let's take, for example, emails. I used to work on emails just to clean my inbox. I need to answer everyone. I need to clean my inbox in order to move to the next task, and so on. And after reading Flow, I started looking at emails like I'm going to have 30 different interactions with people that are very interesting. And I'm going to communicate with people. I'm going to express my ideas, and I'm going to initiate new moves and new ideas, and to learn more and to help people. It's a very, very different approach. So it's not about cleaning my inbox, but it's about 1 hour of answering emails and really enjoying it. And so that's an example of emails. Let's say writing blog posts. I used to write blog posts and keep thinking about how it's going to influence me and when I'm going to post it, and to look at other references and so on. And I was so obsessed about writing the post and what is going to happen after publishing it, so I couldn't really focus on writing itself. And then I tried to just write the post and just enjoy writing the post. And I think that my day after, I can say that I'm able to be in flow most of the time, but even if I'm able to be in flow half of the time, it's still 4 or 5 hours a day that I feel that I'm more energized and doing very important stuff. And suddenly all the casual meetings are becoming a crucial part of the startup, and I get the feeling that I've done something very important. So it's not about the peak points of being on TechCrunch or getting a yes from an investor. It's also about really enjoying writing a post, or working on a design, or working on a strategy plan for next year, or working on the finance. And another very interesting question that I keep asking myself, and again, I'm talking about very small tasks. It's not about the yearly review or about plans for the next version of the startup, of the product. And I ask myself, why do I do it? So let's take, for example, today I've been working on the new website. And it's something that I don't really like doing. I don't feel that that's my expertise. But I started asking myself, why do I do it? And it's because once we're going to have a website, we're going to be able to launch the product and to market it much better, and we're going to reach users, and they're going to understand all the great features that our developers have been working on. So just try to ask yourself before doing boring tasks, why do you do it? Another thing that I learned from Flow, and it was after like 2-3 days of the alerts test that I've done, is instead of working just with to-do lists, which are hard to work with because you always miss a schedule and there are always very good reasons why not keeping up with the to-do list, is the not to-do lists, which are much easier. And for me, it's not just about going to Twitter and Facebook, it's also about how to deal with long meetings and not to suggest things that are not related to a meeting when I'm in a meeting, or how to work with my employees. Okay, the other type of failure, I think that probably the hardest one, is just that things don't work. It's not about getting the no, it's about the process, that you're approaching one investor and the other, and another one, and another one, and keep hearing a no. Or writing to one blogger, and then 10 bloggers, and 20 bloggers, and hearing a no. I know that that's a graph of our first year at Visual Tau. So we had the peak point of gathering this amazing team, and these are my amazing co-founders, Tal and Jonathan. And then we tried to raise money, and we went to 7 different VCs, and some angels got no's, and then we decided that we understood that we need to change the product. And probably the worst part was after working on it for a year and showing the product to some potential users, and since we've met about 20 potential users, 18 out of the 20 told us that there's no way you can use AutoCAD on the mobile. Every time I meet one of them now, I'm very proud to tell them that we have 10 million users now, but that's not the point. And we were just like, there was no way to go down anymore at that point. And I think that that's where most startups close the company. And what we decided to do then is just to keep on moving. It wasn't about changing stuff. It wasn't about being brave. It was just about, we felt like we're crossing a very long desert, and we just keep on walking and walking. And at some point, just the graph went up. And I call it the Hydro method. And, you know, it's less dramatic than it looks like. I know that when I first started approaching bloggers, I worked with a friend who was this like PR master, and when I first applied, when I first wrote to the #1 blog I wanted to be featured on, I spent like 6 hours writing the first email, and I imagined how we're going to look like tomorrow with the post covering Visual Tau. And of course, I got no response, and I called this friend and told him, okay, what should I do now? And he told me, okay, just write to 2 other bloggers. Okay, so I wrote to 2 other bloggers, no response. And what should I do now? Write to 4 other bloggers. Okay, so to how many levels are we going to keep up with this method? What do you think about 16? Okay, 16 sounds reasonable. And from that point, it was so much easier because I had a plan. I knew that if 16 bloggers are not going to answer me, that's a good sign that I need to change my pitch, or I need to change my product. But instead of moving from one blogger to another, saying how come Mashable didn't answer me, and how come TechCrunch didn't answer me, and so on, I had a plan. And out of the 16 bloggers, 3 wrote about us. And I do the same today with investors and customers and so on. Just ask myself, to how many investors is it reasonable to approach? Is it 5? Is it 10? And then I have a plan. It's not from one failure to the other. And what I'm doing today, I'm approaching a lot of customers. So I'm working with batches of 10 cold emails each. And every time I send a batch of 10 cold emails, I change something between the batches and move forward. So it's not one email after another, just a batch of 10, and I always get at least 1 or 2 replies, and it always motivates me to move forward. team. And one of the most interesting things that I've learned from Flow is that people are either the most positive and most negative of experiences of people are when they're with people. So when you're with your colleagues or your family or your friends, you're either much more happier than usual or you suffer much more. And I think it's the same with your team. I know that sometimes they can really help you to, they can be your safety net. You fail, they're there, they're helping you, they help you to put things in perspective. But on the other side, if your team is not supportive, everything is becoming much worse. And everyone over here that had co-founders had this feeling of disappointing them. I know that every time I lose a deal, I feel that not only I've lost the deal, now I'm not delivering for my team, and they build this awesome technology, but I was unable to bring this user. And that's why I think that's the major difference that, from my first company, that from day one I decided that the most important for me, the thing for me at this startup is to have a very supportive team and to have a very happy team. And this is my team. Over here they're very happy. That's because they solved a major bug. But I do feel that we're very, very focused on how to create a happy team. And I'm not talking about happy individuals. It's not about having each one of them enjoying his work and have some challenges and a nice salary. It's about a happy team. And this is a story which relates to, it doesn't relate to building a happy team, but it really changed my perspective on how to work with people. So until probably like 2 years from now, I had this horrible stage fright. I'm not talking about presenting to 100 people. I couldn't speak in front of like 5 people. And I knew that I had to overcome this challenge because I had to sell the product and to speak in front of customers and so on. And I started to go to some courses and started to read some articles, and all of them gave instructions of how to speak, how to move, how to work with your hands, all the things that I'm probably not doing today as well. And it didn't really work. So maybe it was a bit better, but I was still unable to present in front of more of like 3 or 4 people. And then I met this public speaking coach, and for the first time he changed the focus from me to the audience. And it was amazing. We sat, at the first 2 hours he asked me to pick one of our most basic features. And I took the measure tool. It's just like picking 2 points and getting the measurement. So very basic tool. And he asked me, how come it can change someone's life? And I said, it can't. It's just a measure tool. And all the other tools have the same feature as well. And it's not something very unique. And maybe you can speak about another feature. And he told me there are no boring features or no boring topics. And for 2 hours, we sat and really researched and analyzed how this feature can change someone's life. And it can. It can prevent really serious mistakes when building a new building or so. It can help someone to look cool in front of their managers and to get their dream job. And this kind of perspective really changed things for me. So it's not about selling my product or talking about the features. It's really about helping other people. And that's what I'm trying to do with my company as well. It's not about us, it's not about how we work, it's about changing the world. And I know we're not curing cancer, we're just helping developers to deal with exceptions, but it can really help them, and it can really help them solve time and avoid some of the stuff they don't like doing, and that's why we're here. This is the second book that I want to mention today. That's probably the most important book I read this year, and it analyzes the science behind karma, and if being good to the world really helps. And one of the most interesting researches that are presented over there is just about how to motivate companies and employees by giving. And so they discuss how to work with call centers, especially to raise donations. And call centers are, of course, very problematic places to work at. The retention is very low. And they discovered that bringing someone whose the donation helped too made a huge difference of about like 40% in the retention rate. So they really brought students that the donation helped them to get a scholarship and to study and to get to places at work. Another very interesting story is about X-ray, I'm not sure how they're called, but about X-ray engineers or X-ray technicians, yeah. And what they've done over there is to increase the way they read X-ray in 40% by putting a picture of the person on the X-ray itself, and that's made the entire difference. And that's what we do with our team as well. It's all about the users. All the engineers are in touch with users. All the engineers understand when they're writing, engineers and UX designers and support people and even our administration, they understand why they're doing it. They understand why it's helping someone. They speak with users. And it has amazing effect on how supportive they are and how much we can deal with failure, because it's not about failing and not being able to help this, or losing this customer. It's about not being able to help him and being able to help others or to learn from it. One other very important thing that I'm still struggling with, and that's another major difference that I've made, is to give credit to people in your team. Because when you give them credit, they give you credit back, and everything becomes much easier. So it's even about like someone who finds a tagline for the product, or someone suggesting a certain button and telling you later that this user really liked this button and so on. But more importantly is about giving credit before something is done. Another two interesting researches that I want to mention is how believing that someone can do a good job really changes things. So the first research is a very wide research in the Israeli and US Army. And what they've done over there is picking different groups of soldiers and all average groups, and telling them commanders, they split the commanders to 3 different groups. To the first one, they told that you have an astonishing group of soldiers, much above the average. They're going to do an amazing work. The second group were told that they have just an average group of soldiers, and the third group were told that you have a very problematic group, and we hope that you'll be able to deal with them. And of course, that after 6 months, the rates of the soldiers were the same as they were told. So the group that the first group had like an astonishing achievements. The second group was in the middle, and the third group was below average. The same with teachers and so on. There's a very wide research of Harvard University where they picked random students at classes and told the teacher that these students have a very high IQ, and over time they saw that these students perform much better than other students. So one thing that we do, for example, is just when we start working with a new employee, we give them credit on the first day. So on the first day they receive this image that's part of our branding. We have these monsters which represents bugs, but each one of them gets his own painting and saying something funny, and we upload it to the Facebook page of the company and to all the Facebook pages of all the employees in the company. And we actually tell them on the first day you're part of the team. And on the first week, we ask them to give feedback on the product and to give some suggestions and feature suggestions, and we usually accept some of them. So on the first week, they actually affect on the product. And I can say that it makes a huge difference, and a huge difference in the way the team acts as a team. We do the same with people that, not just with new employees, but if I'm going to raise a crazy idea about marketing, I think that people are going to be very supportive because they understand how important it is to give credit even before it's done. For next time. Okay, and two other causes of two other feelings that I think that are very hard to deal with when we deal with a failure is what is failing. I know that I call it the startup vertigo because you're never sure if you're failing or not. Is getting a no from 7 bloggers is okay, or is it failure? We were able to close deals now with about 20 or 70% of the customers we approach. We're not sure if it's okay or not. And the second feeling, which is very related to it, is that's something that I always feel. I used to feel it much more, but that it's so much easier for us as a company. So this company has this like brand name investor, and he opens all the doors for them. And these guys have like this amazing network, and it's so much easier for them. And this guy used to run this unit for A200 and recruit all the best engineers out there, and they just can't deal with them. And what I'm doing these days is I'm part of 2 groups. One of them I established, and the second one I was invited to, of entrepreneurs who are at a very similar stage. These are not the entrepreneurs I get along with the best or my best friends, but I'm part of 2 groups. The first one of entrepreneurs after seed and A round. Most of them have companies around my size. All of them are exactly on the same, are facing exactly the same challenges. And the second group is a group of all the companies in Israel which market to the same market as we do. So it's called marketing for developers. 10 companies all sell to exactly the same companies as we do. And it's amazing because these companies gave me the benchmark to understand if I'm failing or not. For me, it really helped me to understand that most of the time I'm not failing. That launching a new product and getting 500 new signups is great, while I expected like 5,000 startups. So in it, finding, I'm not sure if it's even startup friends, but building communities that you can benchmark yourself by using them is, I think it's something that really increased my happiness because I understand when I'm failing and when I succeed, and usually I succeed much more than failing. So that's one thing that I can have, that I can give you today to understand what is failure. Okay, so thanks. Enjoy the ride. This is my email, my Twitter, and I blog about marketing and product. Thanks.